Good afternoon. I'm going to call to order the Horry County Solid Waste Authority regular meeting for Thursday, December the 13th, 2018. We'll have the invocation by Mr. Bo Ives. I don't see Mr. Johnson here, so I'm going to ask Carl to do the pledge for us.
Everyone, please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for all your gifts. Please be with us as we transact our business today. May it be pleasing in your sight. Please make us good stewards of the resources you provided for us. And these things we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Play ball.
Play ball, right.
I need to get an approval of the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved in second. Any question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, and the agenda is approved. I need to get an approval of the minutes for November 15th, 2018, the regular meeting.
I make the motion.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, and the motion has been carried. You'd probably be shocked, but we don't have any public input for today, so we can move right on into the department.
Can we have some public education?
Nobody requested that either. So it looks like we're gonna be fine. All right, we'll start with the recycling program and corporate affairs.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My report begins on page 12. Page 13 has the first item on it, and it's the Grinding of the Greens program, our annual event that we hold in conjunction with this year's partners, once again, Horry Electric Cooperative. Grinding of the Greens will officially begin on December the 26th, the day after Christmas, and run through January 29th. We do have radio announcements should be starting next week, along with newspaper advertising, and then we will have PSAs running on 4 networks. So you should see something mentioning and talking about the Grinding of the Greens program in the next week or so.
I'd like to add too, last year, we got short notice about, Santee Cooper had always played a part in this program, and we got news last year kind of short that they weren't going to participate anymore. And Esther went and talked to the co-op, and they were gracious enough to take it over. So if you see any of those people, just thank them for being a program co-sponsor with us on this thing. I think that we get a lot of mileage out of it, and takes a lot of effort to do it. So just thank anybody you see from the co-op.
Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Danny. There will also be an article running the South Carolina Living magazine that the co-op puts out. The next item of discussion, the United Way campaign for this calendar year, 2018. We did begin our campaign in September. We got a little busy with some other things, hurricanes and whatnot, and seems like it ran long, or it took a little longer to get all the pledge cards and things in. But we did complete our campaign towards the end of October. Solid Waste Authority employees donated $3,900 towards pledges this year for the campaign, which did exceed last year's pledges. So thank you very much to every Solid Waste Authority employee who participated. In addition, this year in November, we sponsored the United to Read campaign that the United Way does every year. And they go into schools and promote reading. And they'll have volunteers come in and read to every first grade classroom in Horry County. Along with that, they pick a particular subject matter, which this year's was recycling. So it made it kind of almost second nature that we would sponsor that particular event this year. The name of the book that they read to students was Why Should I Recycle? And it's there on your desk there. And inside the front cover of that book is just a little note labeled from the Solid Waste Authority telling students that Bruce Refuse encourages them to reduce, reuse, recycle, and for more information, visit us on our website. So there's some pictures in your packet of Victoria Johnson and Bruce at Ocean Drive Elementary School on that day, and they had a blast. Also, special thanks to Mr. Bo Ives for coming out for the Day of Caring. We usually go and support them on that day also, and help with whatever we can help with. So it's been a pretty good campaign year for United Way and Solid Waste Authority. Our Caught Green-Handed recipient for the month of November is Mr. Fred Allen. Mr. Allen is a regular recycler at the Ana Recycling Center. He was all smiles when he received his gift basket or gift recycling bin with all that came with it. And we were very pleased to be able to award him with that recognition. Unless you have any questions, that's all I have besides Merry Christmas.
I just have one.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you get where I forwarded you the ladies asking me about the grant, the recycling grant, Miss June Jordan?
Yes, ma'am, and she emailed me herself directly. I think she had talked to Mr. Ives and emailed me directly yesterday evening, so I emailed her back today with some information she needed.
Okay. Is there criteria in there that would keep just regular organizations? Would they have to be tax exempt or something? Was that the
Not
problem?
particularly. It does reference local government agencies, schools, nonprofit groups, but it also says local organizations within the grant application itself. So, yes. And me and Danny talked about it this morning early, and what I got back to her was just to say, we believe they are eligible to apply for a grant. I won't be able to tell them if they will actually receive a grant until they actually complete a grant application. So they have to go through the process of the grant application and the review and all that before we'll know if they're eligible.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're
Because
welcome.
like I told her, I would like to see some of the local organizations that work so hard. The ones that have. I think she does in Burgess and the Chirping Birds. There are a lot of different surf riders or whatever that are organizations that do that without any help. That, you know, with the straws and whatever, that they do an awful lot of work. And I told them I would like to see them apply and
Yeah.
come up with
And-
something that would definitely work with the recycling.
Yeah, and I believe if within the grant application itself, it gives all the criteria that we're looking for and how the point system works. So they will already know ahead of time how the grading will work for every grant application that we get in. So until they complete the application, it's hard to tell or say, you know, what will happen on the other side of it. You're welcome.
Yes,
Yes,
one
sir.
quick question. Where all do we advertise for the grants so that these local organizations, do they get a chance to see that we're offering these grants, or?
What we did, let's see, the grant became effective July 1 with our new budget year. So we advertised it in several local papers, Oriole Independent, Carolina Forest Chronicle, North Myrtle Beach Times, Myrtle Beach Herald, Loris Scene, the News and Shopper.
Okay.
We had it on Facebook, it's on our website, we had it on,
So
Horry
they
County,
have
yeah.
an opportunity to see it.
yeah,
Okay, that's
yeah,
fine.
yeah, and we put it on Horry County's information channel because some people actually watch that, like me.
Okay.
All right. Merry, merry, merry.
Merry Christmas. to
Merry
you.
Christmas to you, too. Like that hairdo. Okay, finance?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The financial reports begin on page 20. What you'll see is I am presenting the reports from October. We don't really have November's figures together in time for this board meeting. When I present in January, I'll have it all kind of caught up for you. I'll be presenting through December at that point. But anyway, through the month of October, we should be at about 33.32% of our budget. As you can see, solid waste, mixed construction, and our yard waste is all well above budget. Last month, I had reported to you that our mixed construction was slightly below. Due to the storm, of course, we've gotten caught up and have gone ahead of. So like I said, so that's good to see that our tipping fees are maintaining well above budget. Right above that, you can see that our tipping fees this year as compared to last year, this same time, we're seeing a little over 8% increase. So like I said, so that's, like I said, good to see. We like to see everything continuing to go up. As you can see, our recyclable sales are down. We are seeing a little over a 23% decrease. And the biggest area of that is, of course, is with our MRF. With our prices being down, of course, the storm hurt us last month. We didn't have as much material coming from Charleston, so we didn't have as much to sell either. But overall, the recyclable sales year-to-date are at 28.42% of budget. So they are just a little bit below. They're just a little bit below where we had anticipated for our budget. As you can see, the C&D processing facility with the collection and hauling program, year-to-date, their revenue is $144,488.94, with their expenses being $179,677.43. And year-to-date, they've saved 16.58 days of landfill airspace. So, just in the 4 months, they've saved almost 17 days of landfill airspace. The materials recycling facility, as you can see, the year-to-date revenue is $1,657,456.09, with their expenses being $1,616,030.99, and they've saved a little over 23 days of landfill airspace. So like I said, that's always good to see. Like I said, they're continuing to move things in the right direction. On page 22, just want to take a look at the income statement. As you can see, month to date, we had revenue over expenses of $584,060.21, and year to date, we have revenue over expenses of $1,852,855.25. If you look, the revenue is running at 35.18% of budget, so it's running well above budget, and our expenses are only at 28.41% of budget. So again, I continue to commend staff on watching their expenses and maintaining those below budget, which is what we like to see. I'm going to flip over to page 34. Just briefly kind of talk to you about the Charleston, because I know Mike will give you a little more information on where we are with that. But for the month of October, the average price was $144.85. As you can see, the total incoming tonnage was up this month. As you can see, we had 4,358 tons that came in. And that is a significant increase, and like I said, that has to do with Charleston. We did receive more material from Charleston during the month of October. As you can see, we did have a cost share with Charleston for the month, where they actually did have to pay us $7,946.47, which brings the total MRF revenue for the month of October to $327,083.72, the expenses being $226,282.70. So we did see revenue over expenses for the month of $100,801.02. Year to date, the MRF revenue is $1,362,142.48. The expenses are $1,134,169.78. So year to date, we have revenue over expenses of $227,972.70. So I'll answer any questions for you, and like I said, I will get everything kind of trued up and get you through December at our next meeting. Thank you.
Just
Oh,
one
yes, sir.
question. Tipping fees with the increase from last year?
Yes,
this
sir.
year, would you account the storm for some of that?
Definitely, yes, sir. We've definitely seen an increase. We had budgeted an increase as well, but definitely our biggest increase is in our yard waste material. Page 26, it just kind of gives you a breakdown of the tonnage, and you can see our yard waste is up over last year about 39%. So definitely the storm material has had a definite impact on that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we did get quite a bit of an increase, but then again, we had to do the road and different things to take care of that. So
Right.
I guess it'll balance itself out
They'll balance
somewhere
it out, yeah,
in there.
right. Well, good thing we got the increase.
Yeah.
See if I can make this thing work. Wanted to do a update on a couple of things. First of all, I guess let's see how this thing works. All right. Let me hand y'all out something so you can see this a little bit better. Wanted to give y'all a little bit of update on the scales and exactly what's going on with it. As y'all aware, we have purchased the scale, the one scale, and it's scheduled to be delivered before the first of the year. That scale cost us about $150,000 along with being able to upgrade 2 additional scales. So we got 2 current scales in place that we're going to upgrade. Not replace them, but upgrade them. And we bought 1 additional scale. The purpose for buying that additional scale was to have a second set of scales coming into the landfill because we have backup coming out of the landfill all the time. As part of doing this, our landfill scales are underground. So we have to clean the dirt out from up under them, and it's hard to do. We have to take the scales apart. So as part of the money I'd requested before, it allowed us to pick the scales up out of the ground and build a new foundation to go up under them. One of the foundations are failing, has been failing for a couple years, and it's getting worse. It goes down at least 2 or 3 times a month. And as y'all know, that's our cash register. But so we came up with a couple plans as looking at where do we put those new scales at in the new scale house. And on the first page, as you can see, you see that little brown dot, which is about right there. That's the old scale house. And their scales is you got the outbound scales and the inbound scales. So what we're proposing to do is move the scale house to here. You got to realize you got the old landfill right here, and in order to put 2 scales in, you got to move the scale house over because you can't cut into this old landfill. So to get 2 scales in to handle the incoming traffic, we need to move the scale house over. So we're proposing to put it where you see it says house on your picture down there. And then you'd have the inbound scales and the outbound, or the second inbound scales. Then we'd come on the other side and put an outbound scale. And the temporary, when the one started breaking down that we use now when the scales go down, just so we would be using it where it says mobile up there, that set of scales would be going there. But if we needed them somewhere else, like the MRF broke down, we could pick them up and move them. It's just that simple. Just pick them up, put them on a trailer, move them. So we'd be able to utilize them in different places. So that's that mobile scale. So actually, when it was said and done, you would have 2 incoming scales and 2 outbound scales. And of course, part of this is to upgrade it where you'll see one that says inbound scales express. That one would be automated, where the truck driver come up there, push a couple numbers in. It would give him his ticket, and he would drive on into the landfill. Now, there would be a gate there that would not let him go off of that scales until all the information was properly in the system, sort of to make sure he just couldn't drive through. So that's what this setup is. And when we got looking at it, this is the first setup we came with that we all felt pretty comfortable with it. And then we got to thinking, well, what about this property right here? What value is this property right here for the Solid Waste Authority 10 or 15 years out? So how about go to your third page that you have there, and you'll see it, and I have it, let's see. There it is. You see it right there, that black circle around it? Well, with the scale house sitting in the middle of it, ain't much you can do with it. It's just, it is what it is. And my thought process was, and staff's thought process was, well, if we could if we're gonna spend $1 million now, and we can relocate that scale somewhere else, and then that property would be able to be developed in the future for anything that some future board or staff that wanted to do with it, and that $1 million we put in there wouldn't be lost money, we might need to look at it. And now would be the time to look at that. So if you go to page 2, the middle page, let's see if I can back this thing up. All right, so page 2 will show you that we have an option to put the scale right here. Now, the existing scales are down here. All right, and the shop's right here. All right, so what we would do this is the office. So right now they come in and go this way. So we would come here, turn, go up here, and put the set of scales over here. It gets then it allows all of this area, including part of the original old landfill, to be used for future expansion, future buildings. If somebody in 15 years wanted to build a transfer station there, they could build a transfer station there. There's enough property to do that on. But with that scale house sitting in the middle of it, you don't have those options, except for to take it and relocate it somewhere else. Now, why did we choose way over here? It's at the farthest point of the property. Secondly, in the future, if somebody wanted to build an additional road to come in right off of Highway 90, they could come in right through here. On that side, just tie right back into Highway 90 where it is and carry it on that side of the building and goes directly to the scale house. So that was our thought process, but we wanted to try to get some kind of feedback from the board exactly. This right here costs, we will be within budget. The $1 million y'all gave us to upgrade it, buy a new building, do all the dirt work, all the paving, everything. This will not. Now, we can make it come into budget and still be within the guidelines, and we will have to internally do a lot of the grubbing and road bed development. We will become road people that learn how to build roads pretty quick around here. So we would come in here and dig this out, this area here, all the way around and back up and build these roads. Of course, we won't be able to pave it, but we'd be able to do everything else we needed to do to it. But it takes it allows us to have this property here available for any future use. And of course, as you know, as an organization, we don't look at just tomorrow, we look way out. And we thought we needed to do this same thing. So I'll be glad to try to answer any questions you got on that.
You said this one will not come in budget. How far out is it? And how much difference is it if we do the road work or we farm it out?
If we do the road work ourselves, we can get it within that $1 million. If we don't do the work, the project's about a $1.4 million project. So it's about $400,000 short.
I don't see us coming back for more money.
Mr. Knight told me that he wanted it to go there and for me to find a way to make it work. And the only way I can make that work is to do most of the road work ourselves.
We won't come back for any more money.
I'm very pleased you went through this exercise. I would have hated to have done this and not have explored the alternatives first. Do we have any soil logs to let us know that it's going to be suitable here?
Soil samples? No, we have not had it bored.
Do you have an idea of what the soils are like here?
It's clay and limestone.
Thank you.
We figure we're going to have to muck it out probably 18 inches to 2 foot and backfill it with coquina.
Thank you.
So you're assuming that we would have on property the materials that we will need to build? In our pits. It would come out of one of our pits.
Of course, when we grind concrete, we can grind it for different sizes. And I think we'll be able to use a lot of the concrete that people have already tipped. and then material out of the pit, but I think the guys can do it, even if we have to do that on a weekend type situation.
Yeah, it may take us a little bit longer to do it if we're doing it, but, you know, because we still got our first priority is the landfill, but we'd work on it on weekends and stuff like that if we got it done.
Our consultant would design and oversee.
Garrett and Moore would design it. We would also need a soil, someone to make sure the soil compaction's correctly. It'd be all that would still be done. It's just we're gonna take the mucking out and we're gonna put the road bed back in.
Well, you've already built one road over there, so you're experienced with it.
Wayne and Chris and those guys do a good job out there. But I did not feel comfortable coming here and say, well, this is where we're gonna go ahead and put the scale house without looking at all options.
Well, I think it's a good option. How about, we have all this rain. You said we won't be able to asphalt it or anything like that. So how do we account for when we got all this rain for that road? Are we gonna have a problem with it?
Well, most of our roads are currently, stone, and they're pretty hard roads. We do pretty good with that, so we're gonna do it. It'll be like a good upgraded dirt road. I would hope when we got done with it and got it pretty much completed, maybe hopefully in a year or so, we could have enough money to pave it at least to the scale house.
Yeah. And that's also gonna help relieve the traffic that we're trying to relieve now that's coming in.
Yeah, it would actually give us more of a load, as I'm calling, load the road up, because we'd be farther away from the road, so a lot of that traffic would fill in and load that road up. But our goal is to have enough scales to process those trucks quicker in and out and not have as much.
What's the difference between the time frame of doing the alternative than doing the one that you have?
We have not looked at that, Mr. Hughes, yet. We wanted to get board's guidance before I spent too much engineering money. The board may say, we just don't think that's an option. And, but we want to look at, if y'all want us to explore it further, we'll tell the engineer we're ready to move forward and let us look at it.
That's all on our property. We don't have to go through any permitting, do we?
No, sir. No, ma'am.
What would be, for you to continue this investigation, what would the cost be?
It's probably going to be somewhere around the number of about $10,000 to $20,000 in engineering cost.
Thank you.
So what do you need from us? You need a motion or?
I need a blessing.
You need a blessing?
I would make a motion that we continue to investigate this, that this is not an approval, but it is asking them to continue on down this path and see where it leads us.
I would also like to include that we do some soil sampling so we know before we go in whether there's a quagmire there.
Yeah, what he said.
That's about the only two locations we have, Mr. Schwarzkopf.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have a motion, and it's been second. Do we have any more discussion on it? Hearing none, all those in favor of continuing the investigation, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, the motion's carried.
All right.
So you can continue to investigate, and I would like to know the difference in the time frame.
Okay.
When, between doing the alternative, I think it's good. I just want to know how long it's going to hold up what we're trying to do in the previous stuff.
Yeah, you're talking about probably about 25 acres of property that the piggyback could be built farther on.
Yeah.
You could save it for future buildings if that scale house is not sitting in the middle of it, which I think is something looking forward.
But I
So,
think it's good for sight.
all right,
Any other questions? All right.
let's see if I can get my next video to show. You got to do that? All right, go for it. We took a video of the landfill just to give y'all an idea of what it looks like today. Chris Calhoun did this with our drone. We have a little drone. So this is our MSW. This is piggyback phase 1, and you can see we're starting to work our way up the hill. So we filled the valley in pretty good, and we built this lift in this area. So you can see the birds and everything flying around, but we're in this area. We're currently heading up the hill. So we'll come back, and once we get to this area here, we'll come back and make another and fill that area in like we did before. But this was actually live video. This is our C&D, And we currently have, getting ready for piggyback phase 2, we have fill from here to here with C and D. And you talking about, so we're building that slope to come up, and this would be piggyback phase 2. Give you an example, when this completed, it's only gonna take about 200,000 cubic yards of soil to build piggyback 2, phase 2. That is a substantial savings of what it would have been if we did not fill it in with C and D. But we are actually in the process of filling it in. And when that gets done, this valley right here will be part of the landfill. So that road will no longer exist. The liner will tie to this side of the hill and go up. And this road line right here will be the top of piggyback phase 2. We just thought it'd be good aerial video for y'all to see what's going on out there and give you an idea of what's happening. And Chris is gonna give you a wide sweep. This is where piggyback phase 3 will go. And this is the area we talking about saving if we move to scale house. So.
That drone was a good investment.
Yeah, what it was.
Great.
They've had it for several years, and it's really helped. He's gonna make a quick sweep. It's about a 2-minute video. And that, of course, that was phase 1, and we've already filled all this area here in, and we're starting to work back and forth up to the liner. And this is the top of the hill. Yard waste facility, tracks D and E. We are digging right over here in tracks D and E now. We just about got that completed, got all the sand. We started back digging there today. And of course the skid where the electric generating plant is. I thought it'd be good to show you all that and maybe get another one next month and let you see the progression that we're moving from month to month. At least you get a little, probably won't be this long, but probably gonna try to cut it back to about a minute and a half video so you can get a view of what we're doing out there on the landfill. Come on. Oh, it's at the computer. Ain't that the truth? You can't get it to move, Susan?
See the same spot all the time, will we?
I'm gonna talk a little bit, my next thing on the agenda was the MRF retrofit. I'm gonna talk a little bit about it. We give you a little paper in your packet about where we went. About 2 weeks in a row there, we traveled. We went to Jacksonville, North Carolina, Raleigh, Asheville, and Conyers, Georgia. We did have Mr. Campbell's presence during that trip. That was a fun event.
Yes, it was.
We got to see a lot of good things. We did see some things that changed our mind and direction on what direction that we wanted to go. We saw the machines, equipment that people were proposing operate. We saw it in an actual environment where it operated, it worked, whether it didn't work, whether it did work. Then we went to, the next week, we left on a Monday afternoon, went to Rhode Island. I think Mr. Jones had been to the one in Rhode Island before. But we went to Rhode Island, saw that facility, saw it operate. In each place, we talked to the managers, asked them, what would you do? What would you change different about your facility? Where do you think you are? And we asked a lot of those questions. Went to city carting in New York. Then we went to Connecticut. Saw the actual home office of one of the companies that bid. And then we went to Albany, New York. Every night we was getting into hotels about 11 o'clock at night and getting up at 7 o'clock to be at the next MRF at 7 o'clock in the morning. There wasn't much going, much time to do anything except for go. And, we got stopped by the police on the interstate. We drove from New York to about halfway to Albany with no lights on.
That was your expert driver, right?
Well, what happened was that, we were driving, it was daylight. When it turned dark, the daylight lights was on, so we seen the highway just fine. It just didn't have no tail lights. He did not give us a ticket, he just laughed at us. But anyway, so we went up there and saw that facility, and came back, did that in a matter of about a day and a half, we were back here, or 2 full days, we were back here. So we got to see it 4 or 5 places. We did, like I said, it's been well worth the trip. Because not only did we get to look at equipment, we got to see how they were operating and got some ideas that they were doing in their plants that we thought that would be good in ours. So, one place it was, all the places was good. One place was kind of scary, but most overall of them was a pretty good trip. Our intent when we got back, we sat down, sort of put an addendum to the RFQs and said, now we know what we want. So this is what we want. And they have until tomorrow to submit their revised plans.
Mike, if you could give us a quick overview of what you received in the RFQs from
It was different.
prompted the trip that you took.
Yeah. Well, when we went to the trip, what they bid on was replacing the new screen, the V screen, right? And giving us an option on some optical sorters. One company recommended a PET sorter. The other 2 companies recommended a fiber optic sorter along with it. When we got back, during the trip process, we figured out that we really didn't need a fiber sorter because a fiber sorter cannot sort the paper to the same grade we do in today. And you're going to spend $500,000 on something that's not going to get you to the grade you're doing today. Now, it would reduce some manpower, but you still can't get to the grade. So if we haven't got enough money to get a fiber optic and a PET sorter, we've sort of leaned to getting a PET sorter because our container room right now is maxed out. We got the max amount of people in it, the max amount of equipment. So if we can take some of that material off the line, we can increase the throughput from 11 tons to 15 or 20 tons an hour. So we definitely felt like that the PET sorter was the way to go. We also, after looking at the equipment, we also saw that we needed a new OCC screen. So basically what we've done is we've said, give us a price of replacing the OCC screen through the V screen. We may not be able to afford the optics. So give us a price from here to here, but gives us an option to put in a fiber optic sorter and a PET sorter. And that'll be down. What we did, the 2 things we realized is that we really didn't need a fiber optic sorter because it wasn't going to get us to the grade we're getting now. And secondly was that we needed an OCC, new OCC screen.
So it was a very valuable exercise.
It was. Before that thing, I would have argued with you on what should it be. So I think the meeting was well. What we did see a lot in upstate is in order to get their paper, there's two grades of paper that's selling on the market right now. It's called a grade 8 and a residential grade. And a residential grade gets all your plastics out of it, your PET, all your plastics, but it sort of leaves some cardboard in it. Grade 8, there's got to be less than 3% cardboard in it. So, and we're getting to that grade 8 currently at ours. What some of the plants up north was doing was putting multiple optical sorters. They'd have 1, 2, and sometimes 3 to try to get it clean enough. And number one, we don't have enough room to do that. So we backed up and punted, and that's where we feel like we should be. And we'll see where those prices come in at and decide where we're going to go from there, and then come back to the, what we're shooting for is a meeting on January 8th for the Operations Committee. I talked to Mr. Campbell about that yesterday, and to try to get the time set. Of course, even though it's a committee, we'd like the board to attend so they can see, and we're gonna have all three companies come in and do their presentations. It won't be a real technical presentation, but it'll be an overall view of their equipment and where questions can be asked. And after that point in time, then we'll take any feedback that we get and try to put something together, and on January the 22nd at the board meetings, we'll come with a staff recommendation.
Time on the committee meeting.
Time on committee meeting, y'all need to set that, but it's gonna take about 4.5 hours.
We talked about 12 to 4.
That's up to,
Fine with me?
Mr. Jones?
What's the date again?
January the 8th.
our goal was to give them an hour and then have 30 minutes between each company. That way, in case it ran over a little bit, you still got, and of course, the other company could be waiting and you could bring them in and get started a little earlier. But if it don't.
12 o'clock, okay with everybody?
12 o'clock's fine.
Our MRF tonnage was down last month. Charleston wasn't able to bring us, it was about 200 tons short. Their equipment broke down and it was less tonnage coming in. They have had some issues this month as well. We're trying to get, taking in a few more loads coming in from them to try to get their number up. Our agreement says we'll take a minimum of 20, that there will be a minimum of 2,500 tons brought here, so per month. So we're definitely working with them to try to get that number back. Couple of things that's going on at the MRF. Aluminum prices is way down. As I told you last month, they dropped dramatically and they have stabilized somewhat at about $1,000 a ton. Before that, it was about $1,700 a ton we've been getting for that material. I am now storing that material. The market indicators and the people I'm talking to is telling me that sometime February, March, the pricing is going to shoot back up. And every time I don't sell, we normally sell 1 to 2 loads a month. So that's anywhere from $30,000 to $60,000 reduction in revenue. But if I sold 2 loads at this price, I would only get $30,000 for it.
How are we coming on our storage building?
The building should be in sometime this month, and they should have it erected by the end of January.
You got,
Haven't heard anything different from them other than that. That's what the schedule is.
we got room to hang on to the aluminum?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you talk about money that valuable, you got to stick it
Find a
somewhere.
spot, yeah.
You can find a spot for it. And I'm playing a gambling game when I'm doing that, but I just can't see that selling it for $1,000 a ton when we've been getting $1,700. But there's some indications that the market's going to go up. The only danger to that is Alcoa is sent an email out that they may stop taking recycled aluminum. If they do that, the bottom going to drop out of it. Let's see, Employee of the Month, Will Goings from the city of North Myrtle Beach. He was recognized as or Driver of the Month, not Employee of the Month, but Driver of the Month. And we have sent all the information to the city of North Myrtle Beach. He is a driver for one of the transfer trucks. Also, Household Hazardous Waste Facility. I'm going to give you, in October, we did about 10,000 pounds. We shipped out about 10,000 pounds of HHW. In November, it went to 16,400 pounds. Of that, about 7,000 pounds of that was related to the storm. As y'all know, we accept from residents, we accept it for free we charged when the companies brought it in to us. That tonnage rate was $880 a ton. So, we did that. We've done a total of about 59 tons year to date. We've shipped out and recycled. I think that does me in.
Okay, any
They're gonna have a stroke over there.
questions? Hope not.
Norfleet might start telling me I talk too much. He used to say that.
Oh, you've been around Mike a while, you're getting better at it.
I'm here to answer any questions. If you got anything, just let me know. Thanks.
Any questions? Okay. Danny?
Thanks, sir. First thing we will talk about a little bit was the Overy County Council Budget Retreat. And I can honestly say, I think it was one of the top 5 worst meetings that I was ever tried to prepare for and participate in. And we're on hold now, seeing where, when we're called back down to discuss the management plan. We hope that'll be relatively quick, but who knows?
I'd like the letter that the chairman sent, but do we have a proposed date to make a presentation and invite them rather than let them invite us to the next?
Well, I think the letter was that, you know, if any of them wanted to come out, any of them had questions,
Yeah.
they could let us know and we could do the tour, but
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to do with that is, I didn't want to leave anybody out. I wanted to give everybody an invitation and a chance for them to come in and say, yeah. I'm a little leery about having a meeting to invite them all in. I don't know if that's a good idea. We can talk about it during roundtable discussion if you like. But what I wanted to do was be transparent. They said they had a lot of concerns, and I wanted to give them the opportunity to come out, talk to us about their concerns. I haven't gotten a call. I don't know if Danny got a call.
no.
So I'm a little skeptical about how concerned they were. That's like the doctor calling you and telling you got pancreatitis, but you never show up to the doctor. So I don't know how strong your concerns are. But I want to leave it on the table so that they would know, the public would know, because that's who's going to be affected, that we are transparent, that we gave them the opportunity to come out. I like the thing. They should see the video that we just had of the landfill. Very clean landfill. I went to the one in Cherokee, North Carolina. We should send them one of them and one of these so that they could understand what we're doing out here. But the door is open for them. If anybody has want to talk to anybody, at least the invitation has been out. So if you want to call somebody and say, did you get your letter, or did you get your understanding? Do you want to talk? I'm not one to stay on my knees. I've given them the invitation. I think we can defend the management plan, and if they got that big a concern, I would think that somebody would call and say, hey, let me see what you're doing out there. That's my take.
Was the invitation sent to the county council as a whole, or was it sent to each individual?
Each individual.
That's good.
And the incoming.
Okay, that's good, because
The,
a lot of times,
the incoming chair and the incoming new council.
because when you send it to the individual, then you get a little bit of attention.
Yeah.
But when you send it to county council, general, whatever else, that just gets put in the mailbox with everything else you get.
Go ahead, Ken.
The letter was good. I hope some of them do, because from being at that meeting and listening to some of the comments and concerns, there's some misunderstanding, misconceptions, misinformation that some of them I don't really think are aware of the fact that it was a 3-year plan. They're looking at other things that have come about. So I really wish they would consider coming in and sitting down one-on-one or whatever, how many wanted to find out what we're looking at, because right now the 3-year plan is what we're looking at. The other things that were coming up, that the concerns about public input or whatever are not out there. No one's applied for a permit. No one's done any of that. Therefore, I wonder why that would be a concern at this point. I always think public input's a concern, but there's really nothing to have any public input on, and they seem to think there is, so.
Well, I guess that's my concern, and for the lack of better words, I don't understand. If they don't understand, what they've done is they've lumped everything in one package. So they're trying to put phase 3 and public input and the waste management plan, they're trying to put it all in one pot, when we were only there to discuss the waste management plan. And I think there was a lot of information that was given out that has them confused, and that's why I gave them the invitation that they can either come sit down one-on-one, and sometimes it's better to see what's being done. So we offered them the opportunity to go out. We could show them where phase 3 is. We could talk to them about that. But phase 3 is really a minute point, because that's not where we are yet. We haven't even done, I mean, I don't even know why we keep talking about
Yeah,
phase 3. I wake up at night looking at phase 3, and I'm like, why am I looking at phase 3? We haven't even gotten there. I mean, so everything has centered around phase 3, and they've forgotten about the waste management plan, which is not our plan. It's people who they picked, people who they chose, people who they had involvement.
Well, I just sent you an invitation.
You can have a whole audience to yourself for public input. You can say whatever you want to say. You can ask whatever questions you want to ask. So I go back and say, what are your real concerns? And if you're that real concerned, about public input. And with the DHEC, public input is going to be here. It's going to be in the area that it involves. And not only that, the county council is a part of the public. So when we send out the information and ask for public input, there's nothing from precluding them to show up out here in the audience or send their name in and say, I have some public input. So they have as much right to be here as anybody else. So I'm not sure what's going on.
Well, when I was chair before you, I made sure that each one of the council people were sent an invitation every time one of those meetings were there, as well as the county, as well as our representatives in Columbia, because I wanted them to go through that process with us and to share their concerns at that time, if in fact they may have some. So all of them were aware this plan was being discussed and going through that process, and very little of that disappointingly ever happened. It is also disappointing to me for them to have been told or think that we have not talked and looked at all of the diversion options, to what we've done with the food waste, taking it out, the extra recycling, putting pen to paper as far as taking it out of the county, and a lot of ours goes out of the county. All recycling can, C&D, a lot of it does, the electronics does, the toxic waste does, and we have sent quite a bit out, and to say that we haven't looked at those options and thought about it, worried about it, and looked at the cost of that, we have done all of that. And it's amazing to me how much misinformation seems to have gotten out there.
Well, it also says that they're very uninformed about what's going on at the solid waste. And they kept saying, well, we want to be a part of this. We want to be a part of this. We want to know what's going on. Well, it doesn't seem like you're too informed about what's going on here. In fact, the chairman said, well, we don't want to be like Lee County. We don't want to have a mountain. Totally uninformed that the DHEC has already set the height in which we can go. I mean, so these are the kind of things that shows your lack of understanding of what's going on out here.
And they think they can manage it better.
Well,
There's not.
yeah, right. We're not knowing what's going on. But anyway, that's why I sent the letter, so that they could come and talk if they so choose to.
And I think the letter gives each board member, if they run into a council person during Christmas, did you get your letter? Is there any question that opens the door that you can discuss the questions or points that you'd like to make? And if they want to meet, we will certainly meet. And that leads into the solid waste management plan itself. I spoke in front of the Myrtle Beach City Council this week about their resolution, and we advised them that this happens every 3 years, and in the past down there, some have been more exciting presentations than others because of certain people on their council at the time and on our board at the time. But it went well. I did advise them that it was everyone's plan. It wasn't a solid waste plan. We didn't have anybody on the TAC committee. We paid HCR to manage the meetings and the stenographers to type the minutes and those type things. But I told them it was every 3 years, and in about 6 months, we'll be started back up, feels like, on the next round, if we approve the 2018 by that time. But I told them somewhat this year it was kind of different because we had the plan, and then when I had a permit running parallel with each other, and we had someone on 90 that didn't want anything else done at the landfill or on the properties, and thinking that if they hold the management plan up, it'd hold the permit up. But they're somewhat individual, connected somewhat, but as you said, it is just balled up into a wad downtown. And I did advise them that the outgoing chairman did say he thought the organization should go back under the county government as a department, and that they were key in setting up the Solid Waste Authority with Tom Lee in the League of Cities. They were a big part of it, had a lot of input in it, and it has worked well. And I told them that we looked at one thing here, and that was the trash. We didn't have to look at guns and badges. We didn't have to look at zoning issues and roads and recreation budgets and all those type things. We had one goal. That was the trash, and thought we was handling it well. And I also made the statement there was a C&D war going on, and their closest C&D landfill from them is 25 miles one way. They had some questions, and Dr. Linder said, we would like you to come back and talk to us about China and cardboard and closure and those type things. And we've already sent the administrator a letter that we're open any time for such a meeting or discussion. Just let us know. But they did approve the resolution, so.
That was the last community, correct?
Yes, sir. Another thing, we went to the Socrates meeting last night that the county put on with information type things over the flooding, and there was a big crowd. We were kind of in the third table in line, and all the bad news was here, and we kind of heard a bunch of that. And there's a lot of people got a lot of property that they really don't know. They're in a quandary. They don't know what to do. But once we explained that we didn't pick the garbage up, we didn't pick the sheetrock up, we managed it once it was brought here. And they praised the recycling center at Socrates and the people that work there, and they've been very helpful in helping them. They knew there was a restriction on how much they could put there, but we got a lot of good comments about our organization, and Esther and Mike and I went and presented, and there was a big crowd. So I think it was well worth the time, and we gave out some freebies, some pens and gloves and stuff like that, and everybody seems to enjoy that. Another thing we put together is Nanette, if you will come up and we'll pass those out. I asked Nanette to get with Sue at the store, and let's try to come up with something for Christmas for the kids, and they have done that, and she will tell you a little bit about it.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And that's exactly what happened. Earlier this week, Danny stated, with everything that's been going on in our community and the adjacent communities in the last couple of months, that he wanted us to get with the Council on Aging and put together something that could help the children during the holiday season. So Esther and I got together, and we got with Sue and to see what we could do, because kind of short times and the children being in school a little longer for some of the makeup days, what we could put together. And we put together what we're calling the Festive Fun Friday Giveaway, a blessing for children during the holiday season, promoting reuse and recycling efforts in Horry County. It's going to be next Friday from 10 to 2. We're going to put together some free fruit bags. We're going to put in a gift card for up to $10 for any one item in the store. We're looking for volunteers, if any of you would like to come next Friday during those times to help give them out. So, and we talked to Sue and what we're going to do if someone comes there and they just really wanted a bicycle for Christmas and the parents couldn't get it, and the bicycle normally goes for $12 or $15, that $10 voucher will get that bicycle. So,
Okay.
so,
That's
yeah.
good.
So spread a little cheer, spread a little recycling information, and give out some fruit, and hopefully a little gift for all the children that come over. So, yes, sir.
Is this being disseminated to the press, to the media, and whatever else, or is this?
Esther is going to have it advertised. I don't
Okay.
know all the details on where yet, but she is going to get it out.
Just remember, have no fear when Esther's here.
That's exactly right. So anyway, just come and volunteer if you can next Friday. So any questions?
That's great. Thank
It's
you.
outstanding.
I
Looks
think that's
good.
great.
It's a
Thank
good
you.
idea, great idea, great plan.
Okay, the next issue is the Carolina Pines lawsuit, and we've got all the information in the packet from Pat Frawley, the attorney that handled this thing through the whole process and ended up defending us in Lexington County in the process. And it kind of, the letter on page 51 gives you what Carolina Pines demanded and what the other counties and cities agreed to. And ours, they demanded $214,390 from us. A judge gave them $168,000, which was about $46,000 less than what they had demanded. There's some legal fees that the other side's trying to fight to get, and well, we will continue to fight that process. That's about $3,400 and some change. And to this point, we'll have about $20,000 in Pat Frawley's fees, legal fees. So you take $20,000 away from the $46,000 we've saved, and we've saved money, and we attempted to do what we thought was the best thing to do in this situation. But this shows you in dollars and cents that there is a liability with your trash and where it ends up and who's got it, and if they don't like it, what they can do about it. And they fought this thing under federal law, not just local stuff. So
The federal law is there to protect local governments and state and federal governments from having to bail out entities like this that fold. And so you do have liability beyond what you think you might have. Just because it's been delivered doesn't mean it's over. The legal fees are really extreme. The record doesn't refer to
Well, if that federal law was to protect us, it failed miserably. That's all I've got
It
to
was to
say.
defend them.
And
The federal law is to
basically-
defend
Yeah.
federal government.
And basically, how this whole thing unfolded, the Carolina Pines crowd took the books from the recycling group and showed that what percentage of their business was from us.
But not to that
over
site.
county.
Doesn't make
No matter.
no matter.
They argued it and argued it well, that was not, we had one pallet in there with our name on it, but the judge figured, well, I guess you had a damn opportunity to have it in there if you didn't. But that's kind of, that was the whole theory. But the judge did come back and make Carolina Pines pay a portion of it or reduce what he was gonna give them based on, they had the key to the plant. They knew what was going on in there better than anyone else, so, but it's been fought, he's ruled. This is where we are.
Well, I can say I'm appalled. To me, this was a frivolous lawsuit and should have been thrown out as such. I understand that one federal law and that that's what they stood on. And I can understand Carolina Pines fighting it. I can't understand a judge being that narrow-minded. And I'd hate to say stupid, but that's kind of the way I feel about it.
In the 80s, they had a cradle to grave resolution. I used to deal with hazardous waste. And I was a little appalled when the chairman said, well, we got you say you got liability. When you have this stuff, you are liable for it wherever it goes. They made some comment about a rail car, that we could actually put something on a rail car and ship it out, and I don't know what the cost, probably, but wherever we ship it, we don't know where it goes, who gets it,
But you're on
or
the
what
hook.
happens
Well,
to
we're
it.
still on the hook.
But if it leaves here, we're gonna be responsible for it, for wherever it goes. And you can see, this, I guess this was a small one, if you wanna say.
Yeah.
Imagine shipping out railroads or stuff and not where it's going and what the liability
We
would be
can't
and
afford to
what the
pay
cost.
for it twice, and that's
And that's what
basically
you're doing.
what we've done. And so to me, and in years past, I've looked at thinking dealing with that would have been a good thing. After some of these experiences, I no longer feel that way, because I know how we handle it and what we're going to do with it and the best practices we use. And I don't know what anyone else does. So to me, this makes a huge difference in now how I view what we do and where it goes and how it does. I also think we need to interact either with Tom Rice or someone to have him look at this federal law because of how it applied here. And the other thing is we handled it for everyone. We paid it and sent it off and did what we were instructed to do with a licensed person that the state said we should use. This material came from all of the municipalities in the county. Are we gonna send them a bill?
No, they paid it the first time. They already paid.
Okay,
So did we.
so did we.
No, no.
Well, we used their money to pay.
Yeah.
It was a pass-through. They paid the first time. We gonna get to pay the second time.
It's an unfunded mandate from the state,
Yeah,
and we
right.
should send them the bill.
I agree.
Wow.
This is your mandate
Yeah.
that we're
If the state
satisfying.
had have done what they said they were gonna do
Do.
on TVs and these things, then Sony and all these other ones would have been on, taking so much back, paying so much, get rid, but the state did not do it. Tom Rice was down the road where he should be now, but the local delegation should step up, either fix that or take it back to where you can put them in a lined landfill.
Yeah, I do think we need to interact with the state,
Right.
Senate and House as well. I think they need to know what we've just had to pay and why. And I think they need to have some legislation according to
Our
that.
delegation needs a
Yeah,
package
absolutely.
on what we just
Right.
transpired.
Yeah, well, every delegation, look at all the other ones that were
Look at
there
the other
too,
counties
not
that were
just our
involved.
county.
Yeah.
And as you can see this list, Charleston County, Beaufort County, Orangeburg, Lawrence, Sumter, Abbeville, Aiken County, Odie County, and Lexington County. It just wasn't us.
Yeah, just about every county. Yeah, a
Was-
lot of them.
In order to get some real pressure up in Columbia, though, as Danny and myself and others have been there, Pam, whatever else, know that really strength is in numbers, and to get together with Lawrence, Sumter, Abbey, Orangeburg, and all these other counties, and go up there en masse and whatever else, and get them. I mean, if we just go up there individually, you know, well, thanks for being here, we enjoyed you listening to whatever else, but all of a sudden you get all the other counties that come in there and says, wait a minute, there's something we may need to pay attention to. And I think that's something that we may want to take
We
into
wanted to talk about,
consideration.
discuss,
Yeah, to get, because
And I think,
as as Danny well knows, one of the most difficult things in life is to get the delegation off of dead center and move in any direction.
Well, you can get them off, but the time they hit the go up them stairs at the Capitol, all those lobbyists jump on, and that's when the
That's what I'm saying.
getting off is
That's right, yeah.
changes direction. But,
Yeah, that's, fortunately, Dan and I've been there too many times to put up with that, so.
Well, I think it's a good idea, and I think the atmosphere may be conducive for that at this point in time.
And
Yeah.
since the Association of Counties was
Yeah.
involved in our
Yeah.
defense,
Right.
Yeah.
they should be party
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah, get the other counties, and then get the South Carolina Association of Counties. South Carolina Association of Counties, in some instances, as Danny can testify, they've got some clout, and other times that, are a little passive. But there's times when they're a little bit like E.F. Hutton, when they talk, people do occasionally listen.
That's it.
That's it. We didn't have any committee reports, so we'll go to old business.
I just like.
You got so, go.
I'd just like to back up for what you were talking earlier about the county council, and you basically, I thought, used a good expression when it called a lack of E&I, education and information. I know that there's a new incoming chairman. He's going to make new committee appointments probably sometime in February and whatever else. But we may want to give some thought to inviting the new I&R committee to come here after their meeting, or either have their meeting here. Public safety has done this for quite a while, as they will just go to different precincts, different fire stations, or wherever else, and have their monthly committee meetings. And maybe we might be interested in hosting the I&R meeting out here, and if not, have their supplemental meeting, meet out here, and then we can inform and educate the new chairman and the new committee members of the I&R committee, as well as the new chairman of the Horry County Council.
I have no problems with that. Again, I think it's a great idea. We can give them the invitation. They have to be the ones that step forth and say, yeah, that's what we want to do. I don't think we would have a problem with having the R&R meeting out here. I've talked to a lot of those guys before we had this meeting, and it always changes when they sit around the table.
Now,
Personally, I had personal calls and personal talks, and when it gets around the table, they tend to go a whole different direction. So I don't put a whole lot of faith in that. But I don't have any problems with educating them.
I think
And
providing.
I think they need some education if they're willing to take it.
Information is important.
willing.
If they're willing to take it. You've been an instructor for a long time. You have some people in the class that are just not willing to be taught. And so I don't know what else to do other than offer to give them information. What we're trying to do here is be as transparency as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody give you an opportunity to come look in your kitchen, it's gotta be clean. Okay, you don't usually invite people to your house if it's dirty. So we've invited people in to look and see what's going on, ask the questions that need to ask. We're not perfect. Yeah, we may make some mistakes, but we're willing to own up to those and say, yeah, we made a mistake. We can correct it and go on. So, yeah, I don't have any problems with that. If they want to come out here, that's fine with me. As much education as we can give them. I'd like to give them an overload because they're desperate in need for it.
Well, one thing I learned when I was in New York is when you had a press conference, and you didn't put on the bottom that food and beverage was being served, the participation was really low. But, that was, like press people, boy, you,
No wonder I never show up to anything. I'm not even when that's down there, I'm not a big eater, but that's fine.
Neither am I,
We'll-
neither am I,
we'll-
but-
We'll serve them some coffee.
But I'll tell you
donuts,
one
or whatever you want to do.
I found out when living in New York, man, that's the best way to get the press and
Well,
the media out.
we
is when
used-
they found out that there was
That
there
was one of Ken Sharple's thing. We used to have midnight basketball over there, and we'd serve Pepsi Colas and cookies and all kinds of stuff. We have the whole people come. And he said, oh, this is great. We're going to get all these students and enroll because we got 7,000 kids in the gym. And guess how many we got enrolled?
7? You got 7 out of 7,000, yeah.
But we had fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. Old business, Danny.
Charleston County, Mike.
As y'all are aware, we went and met with Charleston County here a month or so ago, and they had asked, and they have also sent us a letter asking us to extend the current contract. We have sent that contract to them, and I put a sample in your packets of what we have sent to them for their review on a draft. Of course, we'd like to get y'all to review it and approve it. The only things that was changed in the contract from the current contract was we went the terms 6 months at a time, starting February 1st, for one 6-month term, two options to extend. Excuse me. Also, the tonnage, we dropped it back to 12 to 1,500 tons because we're going to start rebuilding our plant internally, and we need Fridays to do that with. And we also changed in it where it says that the base market value would be 150 to 165. There would be no payback, and we changed that to a flat 165. So in other words, what will happen if the price goes below 165 before, as long as it didn't go below 150, correct me if I'm wrong, they had to pay nothing to us. Up under this new agreement, if it dropped below 165, they would have to start paying us dollar per ton. The reason we did that after review of the financials, you know, we've had to add some additional labor to get the material cleaner, and we felt like we need that extra funding to help offset some of that cost. And that's the only changes that we made when we sent it into them. Be glad to take any contracts or any comments on it. But this is just a draft, and we have sent it to them.
We sent this to Charleston. We haven't heard anything back from, so I take that position as they don't have a problem with it.
Have we also communicated with county council so they know that the conditions that they've requested this extension? I don't want to surprise them.
We'll send that to them.
Terrific.
So what do you need from us?
I'd like for y'all to take time to review it and then give me any comments you got or any other additional things you'd like to see put in it or changed. But we we negotiated it last time, and the only thing we changed and felt there was a need to change, of course, was the tonnage and to put the, change the dollar amount.
We just need you to approve the contract.
Has there been any more discussion about them reactivating their former plant? Would they still be?
They're in the process of, my last conversation was, are you gonna have your plant running by January 31st? I don't know, what they said. Where are you at on it? We don't know. Do you want to extend the contract? We don't know. So that's the response I got.
My concern is would they accept the minimum that we have stated if they're going to be operating their old plant?
Well, and we had that discussion in our meeting when we went. It is my position, of course, the board will do whatever the board wants us to, but my position is I can't run a half a shift. I need between 12 and 1,500 tons per shift to run, and if they can't give me that, I can't run a half a shift.
We have to insist on a minimum.
Right.
If they're going to operate it, fine, but we have to insist on it.
Right.
And all that's stated in the contract, is that right? I haven't had a
Yes.
chance to read
Yes,
it, but
sir.
I'm
That's why
assuming
I'm
that it's
bringing
it's
it
a
up.
lot different.
We
But-
have to hold firm.
Yeah, but he did state that we could not run a half shift, and I think they understood that
Good.
very well.
Is there a penalty in there for the tonnage we do not get if you don't get that amount?
I would consider that there's not any penalties, but I would consider that as a breach of contract. And at that point in time, you could end the contract.
Yeah, this is the same contract basically that we've had. All the verbiage is the same, we've just changed those three things.
Yeah, but we have been accepting less than.
Well, only that 1 month when they had a breakdown.
That was a reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah, if they start, we get a week, they don't send anything, then we, like Mike says, we take that as a breach of contract, and they'll either fix it or we'll terminate it.
I personally would rather see a penalty, because if our goal is to terminate it, let's don't renew it. If that's what we're trying to go, we're acting like if that doesn't work, we'll stop. Well, if stopping is what we want to do, let's don't start.
Well, we won't, we don't.
I'd rather see a penalty in there as two things. One, it would be a motivation to them, and two, it would be an advantage to us.
And if they
Okay.
don't pay the penalty, what?
If they don't pay the penalty, then I've given them every chance. But if we're looking for a reason to stop, like I said, let's don't start.
We're not, I don't think we're looking for a reason not. We're not looking for a reason to stop it. We want to proceed on. But if you need a penalty in there, how much?
Well,
What's it gonna be?
I don't know.
You bill them the minimum whether they deliver it or not.
Right, because what concerns me is, I look at the treasury sheets every week or so, and we have a lot of money involved in part-time labor for that. And if for 1 week or whatever they didn't send it, we've got thousands of dollars that we're gonna pay these people, so, and I don't know the best way to do it, but, you know, that's a concern to me.
Well, that's the concern, but I guess what Danny's saying, I understand what we're all saying is, but even if we build a penalty in, we still got the labor that's going on, but there's nothing we have to do that can make them pay the penalty, except a breach of contract. If they don't pay the penalty, then
You end the
we
contract.
cancel the contract. Same difference if they become a standard of them not sending the required materials that we're asking for, that's also a breach of contract.
Now
So
that-
I don't think that we're looking for a way to get out. I understand what you're saying, but I think it ends up to the same thing. We can't make them pay the penalty, so it may be a little more pressure on them to say, well, if you don't send it, you're gonna have to, but if they don't intend to send it, it doesn't make any difference one way or
It
the
doesn't
other.
make any difference, but if we don't give them the option
Of paying the penalty,
of sending in the penalty, I don't understand the downside of putting a penalty in the contract. If there is, somebody explain it to me.
Well, we may have a time where we can't take as much. Then that penalty would come back on us.
come back to us, yeah.
That would be a.
Okay?
Now,
And
there is a clause in the contract, and this is what it reads. At the end of the contract, any expenses that we have where we've lost money, they will have to pay us.
Okay, so that would
good
take
enough
care of your
penalty for
concerns,
me.
man.
It's
That's what we're covered.
It says the final calculation will be made at the time of termination of the agreement,
That's my.
and the county shall make payment for all remaining expenses within 30 days of the date receipt of notice.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not interested in penalties, I'm interested in making
Yeah,
sure.
well,
We're defrayed
I
the
think
expense.
that
Yeah.
kind of takes care of the labor thing. So if they gotta pay, if we got workers and they don't send the material, then we bill them for it.
Now, also, if we don't get the material and there's nothing to do there, Rodney sends them home. We clean up, we do everything we can do, but, well, they're real good about if there's nothing to do, they go home.
Yeah. We had to send people home early last week because we didn't have enough material.
And the manpower and the people we're getting them from don't
It's variety.
cause us a problem.
Now, the one thing I do have a concern about is the amount of, they need to let us know in a reasonable amount of time whether they're gonna sign this thing. Because January 15th, I gotta start evaluating employee needs.
Well, I
Well, that'll be up to me and you to
Yeah,
either get it
I-
signed or not.
I
Yeah.
thought we told them that we were gonna move on with our plans, whether they signed or not. So I think you guys would need to go ahead and make your own plans whether or not they,
We get this thing approved today, we'll
Yeah.
make that, we'll make that known.
any more concerns, questions? Need a motion?
Motion to endorse the contract that's been
I second that.
sent.
It's been properly moved in second. Are there any other questions? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, motion's carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to new business, transfer of designated funds.
We have, of course, a policy in place, the unrestricted fund transfer policy. At the end of the year, after the CAFR is completed, I always take a look at our financials, and according to that policy, we are to maintain 15% of our estimated annual revenues. Anything above that we have available for transfer, we can transfer into our designated funds. And during the budget process this year, we took a look at the fact that we knew we would need some funds in our equipment replacement fund and our general construction and development fund. So at the end of the year, we had $1,180,697 available for transfer. And so my recommendation is to split that in half and transfer half of that to the equipment replacement fund and half of it to the construction and development fund. And then this year, that's kind of where we plan to put most of the transfers that we do this year as I take a look at them. After this year, we may start putting that money back into, like, piggyback, so that we'll start building that fund back up as well. So what I'm asking for is the board's approval to do that transfer to the designated accounts, equipment replacement, and general construction and development.
So these are the amount, 590,000 in this one and 590 in the other one?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion that we receive the staff's recommendation.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Are there any questions?
Not necessarily a question, I don't guess, but when we're looking at in the future and doing things and knowing how good you are at that, and I'll have to pat Mike Bezin on the back for looking way into the future into moving those scales. I think that was a great thought and a great deal of work and thought process had to go into that. So I'm assuming as you're looking at that, you're also looking at the areas that you may need monies in that budget to do that. And if that's what you're doing, I think that's a great thing.
And that's exactly what we're doing. That's how we determine that, especially that, like in the construction and development, that's exactly what this money will cover, those future costs, like to move the scales. And when we do our 5-year capital budget, and we can see that we're going to be short in about 3 years for the next construction project that we may need to do on the landfill, whether it's road improvement, that's why we knew we needed to start transferring, because those funds, the equipment replacement and construction development, they don't have anything transferred into them on a regular basis. So this is the only time that we can actually transfer funds into those accounts.
Any other questions? All those in favor of transferring the forms, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, the motion's carried. Thank you.
You're welcome. The next item I have for you is financial assurance. As I'm sure you're all aware, South Carolina DHEC does require that annually that all permitted landfills must present to them a means by which that we can cover closure, post-closure, when the landfill, of course, is closed, but also to cover any kind of spills or anything else that may happen during the year. And based on an engineer's report determines our level of liability, and there are several different mechanisms by which you can meet these requirements. We have, since the establishment of the authority, always used the local government financial test. And with that, as you can see, I've included in your packet that there's 2 letters. There's one that actually it does get submitted to DHEC, and then one, of course, to the board. There's several different tests that have to be met throughout this, and of course, we do meet all of those requirements. As I'm sure you've heard lately, Horry County's general fund revenue is also included in this financial assurance, has been since the establishment of the authority. and that is to meet the requirement to say that our revenues combined with Horry County's revenues meet the 43%, and we do. And like I said, and because we are a component unit of Horry County, we are able to use their revenue funds. In the packet that I send to DHEC with this, I send them a copy of our CAFR, Horry County's CAFR, these letters, the engineer's report, and the statement that's included in there also from the auditor. And like I said, we do meet all the requirements that DHEC requires, and these are the letters that I'm just asking your approval on to get this packet sent out to DHEC.
So moved.
Sounds great.
It's been properly moved in second. Are there any questions? All those in favor, let it be shown by saying aye. Aye. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And there was a deadline on getting this to DHEC, wasn't there?
Yes, sir, you have,
To the end of the year.
we have 6 months from the time that our year end closes, which is December 31st. And so I do have everything, Horry County did complete their CAFR, and so I have that completed and ready, so I have the packet ready to mail out tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Roundtable discussion.
Don't really have any discussions. I would just like to say, Mike did some excellent presentations, but I also know that the administrative team that he also works with Rodney and Rich and Danny, Nanette, Esther, Cecil, everybody has input into that, that comes up with those decisions. So I would like the rest of y'all to know that we really do appreciate you putting your time there. All of you that work here in the administration. I hope I didn't miss anyone, but I can see a few people I did sitting back there. But I know that he discusses that with you, and I know that y'all don't mind telling him exactly how you feel about it. If you do, don't. It's quite all right. He needs some advice too. So I want all of you to know that I know it's a team effort, and I appreciate that.
Because we can split his attaboy with all of us.
There we go. Share it, share it. Share the wealth.
Just two things that I have, the River Keepers Conference, Water Conference, I did hear back from them. They've sent me a list of questions that will be asked. Also, they've given us the opportunity, if we like, we can have a table for display. So I'll get with Esther and see if that's something, and Danny, see if that's something they want to do. I will have these, because they're on my cell phone and I'm still getting technologically educated. So I will have all of this printed off, and I'll give you copies of it on the 8th when we meet, because we don't have to let them know anything before the 25th of January. Most of the questions are about river keeping. There's a few questions on there about plastics in the oceans and that kind of stuff. So once you look at the questions, if anybody wants to volunteer, I don't mind talking. It seems like very simple questions. There will be questions from the audience, but everyone who decides that they want to speak, they will need a short resume so that that person can be introduced.
When is there?
It is
February 9th,
February 9th, yeah.
Saturday,
So,
at the Horry County Museum.
yeah, so we got time for that. But I'll get that to you. The other thing is next year's meeting dates. And so I'm gonna pass those around to you.
Great.
And you can let me know if you got any heartburns, and if you do, that's okay. We got some Tums somewhere around here.
Pass out the roll, go with it.
I think everybody got one?
Everybody's got one?
Okay. All the dates are, I think, the fourth Tuesday, except for the last two. November is a little early. I think it's the week before Thanksgiving. And the one in December will be similar to this. It'll just be one day earlier. We all good with that? Everybody got that? That's all I have. Anybody got anything else? I think we beat all the other stuff to death, unless somebody's got a dying desire to keep talking about it. Listen, I appreciate all that you guys have helped me do for this year. I appreciate the staff. I think they've done a great and wonderful job, and I hope they all have a merry and happy New Year. And tell the rest of the staff that we don't see that we really appreciate what they do. And with that, that's all I have. If anybody got anything else, we'll take it at this time. If not, I will adjourn the meeting. Merry Christmas to everybody. Meeting is
Happy New
adjourned.
Year.
Happy New Year to you.